Okay, so today we're going to learn about how to find the slope from 2 points. Previously, we learned how to figure out the slope from a graph using rise over run. And now you're going to have to learn something called the slope formula. Now, if you remember my song, it's what is slope, rise over run, the difference of the y's over the difference of the x's. If you guys remember that, it'll help you remember the slope formula. So let's take a look at problem number 1. Here we got two ordered pairs, the ordered pair 1, -19, and the ordered pair -2, -7. So first thing we want to do is we want to write down the slope formula. Again, what is slope? It's the difference of the y's. So you take the y values and you're going to subtract them. And it's going to be over the difference of the x's. So you're going to take the x values and you subtract them. Now, next thing you want to do is draw what I call dumbbells. And these dumbbells are going to help you get your values organized. Next thing you want to do is, if you take a look at the slope formula, you have y2, y1, x2, x1. That means that you're going to have 2 points. You're going to have point number 1 and point number 2. And so you have to choose whether the first point is going to be point number 1 or point number 2. And then you want to give the corresponding y coordinate and x coordinate to that point. Now, it doesn't matter which one you label point 1 or point 2. But I like to label the first one point 2. So I'm going to go ahead and label the first one point 2 and the second one point 1. Now, because we know when we plot points, the first value is the x coordinate. The first number is going to be x and the second value is going to be y. So that's going to correspond to the x value of point 2 and the y value of point 2. And the second point, we're calling it point 1. So that's going to represent the x value in point 1 and the y value in point 1. So now let's fill in our dumbbells. Now I highlighted the area here. In the first dumbbell, we're going to put the y value of point number 2. And if you look up there where I labeled it properly, my value is going to be -19. In the next circle, I'm going to put the value of y number 1. So again, if you organize your data and you label it appropriately, you can very easily see that that value is going to be -7. Now, I don't know why I highlighted that, I apologize. But in the next value, x2, if you look up there, we're going to put the value number 1 because that's what we labeled as x2. And then the next circle, we're going to put in the value of -2, which corresponds to our value of x1. Now, this is the most important step. If you guys get this properly, you should have no problem if you guys know how to simplify from here on, and that's all you got to do using 7th grade math. So what we want to do next is we want to simplify the numerator. Here we got -19 minus -7. Now, we should know by now that we cannot have two double signs, and in my class I teach you guys to multiply. So a negative times a negative is going to be a positive, so we end up with -19 plus 17. Please remember, when you subtract a negative, it's the same thing as adding the positive. Next thing we want to do is simplify the denominator. We got 1 minus -2. Well, once again, we got double signs. A negative times a negative is going to give us a positive, so 1 minus -2 is the exact same thing as 1 plus 2. Now what we do is we simplify the numerator and the denominator, which the numerators are rise and the denominators are run. And so -19 plus 7, we box our terms whenever we add and subtract in my class, and we use war and peace. They're at war, the negatives are going to win, and by how many? 12. And then denominator, the run, we have 1 plus 2, and we all know that that is 3. But the most important thing, or one of the most important things that you want to do is simplify your answers, because if you don't simplify it, you're not going to get it correct. So can we simplify -12 thirds? Well, is there a value that we can divide both the negative and both the denominator and the numerator by other than 1? Of course, it's going to be 3. And so our answer is going to be negative because the slope is already negative, and we're going to divide 12 by 3 and 3 by 3, and that's going to give us -4 because -12 divided by 3 is 4, and 3 divided by 3 is 1, and then we have -4 ones. Now in my class I tell you guys about the toothpick, so the -4 is going to smash the 1 down, and that's where our slope ends up being -4. Now, please be careful with your integers and your simplifying fractions, and you guys will be able to knock this out of the ballpark. All right, let's take a look at another example. Here we got the order pair negative 19, 12, and the order pair negative 9, 1. So first thing you do, once again, is you write down the slope formula. What is slope? The difference of the y's over the difference of the x's. Next thing you do is you draw your dumbbells. Again, it's going to help you get organized. Now you label your points. I like to label my first point 2, so that's going to be x value of point 2 and the y value of point 2. And my second order pair, point 1, so that's going to be the x value of point 1 and y value of point 1. So now we go ahead and fill in our dumbbells. And our first circle is going to be y2, and second dumbbell y1, so we're going to substitute 12 and 1 inside our dumbbells. On our denominator, we got x subscript 2. I already put the negative by accident. That ends up being negative 19. And in the second dumbbell, we end up putting negative 9 because that's the x value of 0.1. So we end up with 12 minus 1 as our numerator, and we need to simplify that. Well, 12 minus 1, we want to write, again, our dumbbells. I told you guys this during class, and I forgot during the videos. Always write your slope without the dumbbells. So 12 minus 1 is going to be 12 minus 1. Negative 9 minus negative 19, well, we have double signs, and negative times a negative becomes a positive, and so that becomes negative 19 plus 9. And the next thing we do is we simplify our rise and a run, our numerator and denominator. 12 minus 1, well, we can do that without boxing our terms. That's going to be 11. And negative 19 plus 9, we box our terms. Remember to include the sign with the number behind it. And are they at war, that piece? They're at war. And who wins the war? The negative by how many? 10. And last but not least, we simplify. So we need to simplify our fraction. Is there a number besides 1 that we can divide 11 and 10 by? Do they share a common factor other than 1? And the answer is no. So that answer is already simplified. Please remember, box your terms, use war and peace. Remember, include the sign with the number behind it. And substitute appropriately. All right, let's try the last problem I'm going to do for you today, and that's going to be problem number 3, the order pair negative 9, 19, negative 12, and the order pair negative 11, positive 10. Once again, write down the slope formula. What is slope? What is slope? Rise over run, the difference of the y's over the difference of the x's, and don't forget, simplify. So now we're going to make our dumbbells. We're going to label our ordered pairs. Again, I like to label the first point 2, the second point 1. And then we're going to substitute into our dumbbells. My first dumbbell is going to be y2. That's going to be negative 2. My second dumbbell is y1. That's going to be 10. My dumbbell, my denominator, the first one is going to be the x2 value, which is 19. And then the x1 value, we got negative 11. So now we want to rewrite our ratio, our slope, our rise over run without the dumbbells. So our numerator, we got negative 2 minus 10, and that's negative 2 minus 10. Our denominator, we have 19 minus negative 11. We got the double signs, that becomes positive, so we end up with 19 plus 11. And now we got to simplify our rise and our run. On the numerator, we got negative 10 minus 10. They're at war. And so the answer is going to be negative. And when they're at war, you add the values. That ends up being negative 12. In our denominator, we got 19 plus 11. Now, don't do the same mistake I did the first time. I put down that it was 20, but it's actually 30. So we end up with a rise of negative 12 and a run of positive 30. Last but not least, we got to simplify. Well, our answer is going to be negative. Always put your sign down first. And what value can we divide 12 and 30 by? Now, a lot of you are probably thinking 2. Well, that is true, but there's actually a bigger number you can divide 12 and 30 by. And that's going to be the value of 6. So what is 12 divided by 6? That's going to be 2. 30 divided by 6 is 5. And then last but not least, can we simplify negative 2/5? Negative 2/5. Is there a value that we can divide? Just in case, keep going, because you might, if you would have used 2, you would have had to simplify again. Well, there is no value that 2 and 5 share in common, factor that is, and so our final answer is negative 2/5. So that concludes this lesson. I did 3 examples. If you guys need any more help, come see me. Thank you for watching.